Welcome to the Persistent Managers Podcast, where we help managers and direct reports win faster. Hosted by Paul Leon with the support of his wife, Trisha Leon.
In this podcast, I'm going to talk about the 5 qualities that make an excellent leader. My name is Paul Leon. I have over 5 years of sales, management, and training experience. I've trained over 2,000 professionals in these skills while maintaining a 4.9 out of 5 and have influenced $100 million in sales revenue in my career. So what I have learned personally, and again, this is personal experience, and I'm going to keep this high level if I ever tell side stories. That way I can maintain the privacy of these people. And again, this is my own personal experience. The point of this is to take insights and learn from my mistakes and what I've experienced. So the first great quality of what I see is that they avoid passing blame on others. I think this is a very key quality because if ever you have to project insecurities or because something didn't get done onto your staff just to protect yourself, what has happened is you've actually taken yourself out of a leadership position and you've taken yourself more as a manipulative position, meaning you're using your position to communicate that this is not what happened, and you're kind of just making it based on personal bias. And see, here's the thing we have to remember is that personal bias destroys performance. There's a reason why a PIP plan is called a performance improvement plan, not a personal bias improvement plan. See, performance should be based on measurable things, KPIs, key performance indicators. And I think personally, in my experience, is there's a lot of management communication out there that is more based on personal bias than there is performance. So a friend of mine who was a really good salesperson who ended up having to leave because they had a gentleman's agreement about the compensation plan where if this person had hit their quota, they'd get a bonus. Now, to be fair, the person who was running this organization, this was in the pandemic. They were having to make difficult decisions. But he said, I would have stayed even though they didn't pay me the bonus because in my exit interview, they said, you always want to blame someone else and you don't want to take responsibility for your own mistakes. When the agreement was that they actually did what they said they were going to do. Now, obviously, I'm only hearing one side of the story. I think in these situations, there's a story on the left, there's a story on the right, and somewhere there's an in between. So the second thing that makes great qualities of a leader is they can challenge tasks and projects when communicating with a direct report, not to the people. I want to say this again because it might sound a little ambiguous. They can challenge tasks and projects but not related to the people. Now, this is a very intense skill and it takes years to develop, in my personal opinion. So, I've had the pleasure in my career in the past in having fantastic one-on-ones with an excellent manager. So, I'll tell you a story of a time I messed up and how this and I'm laughing because I do feel this story I was in the wrong. I just want to be clear. But what happened was I was in a one-on-one with his manager and I was really stressed out because there was a lot of things going on and I was balancing too much. And we were setting goals. And I actually said while setting goals, I said, hey, can I set a lower number goal so that way I can just blow it out of the park and it's not that difficult? Like this actually left my mouth. And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you said something and in like 3 seconds you instantly regretted it and you were like, well, that's dumb. So I immediately felt nervous of what the next thing was going to come out of my manager's mouth. And he goes, I want you to say that by yourself when we hang up on this call. So, and I think that was the best response that this person could have ever thought of. Because as soon as I got off the call with this person, I actually said out loud what I said to him, like, hey, can I set a lower goal so that way I can hit it easier and blow it out of the park? And as I left my mouth, I thought, well, that is dumb. And not dumb me personally, but dumb what I said. And I value so much what this person did because he could have easily criticized, changed the tide, or say why. But he put the ball in my court. And I want you to think about this because great managers know that the more the employee, the direct report, the teammate can hold the ball, the higher chances of them scoring. So the third quality that they also have is they can prioritize productive work, not busy work. There's a key difference here. So productive work is any tasks you're doing that lead toward a defined goal. I want to say that again. Productive work is any tasks or work you're doing that lead toward a defined goal. Busy work is work that is lateral or side movement. So I played football in high school and I was a defensive end. And we had these coaches that were NFL coaches and they were very intense. I'll never forget, he got mad at me once on the field and he grabbed my face mask and he started shaking me. And he goes, "Where's the end zone?" And he went like, "Where's the end zone?" And I said, and I pointed. I was so freaked out, I didn't even like say anything. I just pointed to the end zone. He goes, "So why do you run over there to where we drink the water? Because that's side movement. Next time we call the play, run toward the end zone." And I tell you that analogy because this is a quality of a great leader. They know that, for example, I use sales analogies a lot because I think it's the easiest and most relatable. They know when you're making 50 calls a day or 200 calls a week or 200 calls a day in some career choices, especially in the sales world, they know that that task is productive. They know that the marketing team has to be working on sales messaging, value proposition, so that way it can support the sales team. A busy work example is instead of making phone calls, instead of writing that email, they go do their laundry. Now, doing the laundry is important. I want to be very, very clear. I know in my personal household, I need to do the laundry more. My wife reminds me of that a lot, and I'm getting better at that. But that's just a very simple example of how a great quality is they prioritize productive work, not busy work, into their teammates. So the next quality, and this is the fourth quality, is they check their ego to empower others. I want to say this again. They check their ego to empower others. I think a lot of the time, I know I've learned personally in my own journey. And just to be clear, I'm going to share that the fact that I go to therapy, not because I want to share my wham-whams with you in any way, shape, or form. I want to share with you the fact that I go to therapy, that I started that journey for a couple key reasons. I started going to therapy personally because I was in a situation where I never wanted my frustrations to come out or be upset or for that to come organically. For those who present or speak or in any way, shape, or form, you know that sometimes you might have a script and sometimes we go off script because we want to be our authentic selves. So I started going to therapy so I could keep to my authentic self. But in therapy, I learned something that I think relates here to what I wrote, that great leaders check their ego to empower others. So I was having a conversation with one of my old therapists was amazing. She would always let me talk, get my frustrations out. And if you are a therapist or somebody who does that, my hat's off to you. Keep doing what you're doing. In my personal opinion, you're doing God's work if you believe in those things. And I remember she stopped me as I was getting frustrated. And she goes, "I want you to remember something. I know you're frustrated about this situation with this individual, but everybody wants to be respected and seen." I want to say that again. She goes, "Everybody wants to be respected and seen." And I think that really resonated with me. And I feel that if you're a manager and you can remember that everybody wants to be respected and seen in your core, then a lot of your communication is about helping those people take the spotlight, not you to take the spotlight, not you to take priority. I know for me personally, I try when I'm training my best to prioritize the psychological safety of others, especially in a public setting, because public embarrassment is a very, very tough thing, which brings me to my final point and what I want to kind of drive home and bring this podcast home to. The fifth thing is great leaders, they prioritize praise over punishment because they value psychological safety. I'm going to say this again. Great leaders prioritize praise over punishment because they value psychological safety. Now, are there some outlier situations? Absolutely. A friend of mine owns a business. He gave an employee 20 chances who showed up 20 times late in a row before he let this person go. Now, most companies, believe it or not, after 3 or 5, them's the breaks. And I know that's tough, but he actually gave this person more leeway than I feel than most. And the employee even actually said, like, hey, like, I'll do whatever it takes. He goes, I'll show up. And if I'm late tomorrow, I'll let myself go. Well, long story short, this person was let go. But here's the interesting part of the story. This person ended up sending an email and saying, thank you for giving me so many chances. I'm going to learn a lot from this experience. And I think that says a lot about the person who gave that many chances, because there's something that I have an uncle who has a very successful business. He's got like 20 locations. And one of the things he taught me, and I actually used to work for him a long time ago, was he said, I've never had to fire anybody. So he said, I never had to fire anybody, Paul. They ended up firing themselves. And I think that has stayed with me, because what I interpreted that moment when he said that to me was, he will give someone an immense amount of freeway room, because he knows that sometimes if we can develop someone, it actually saves the company money, but more importantly, we can create future leaders. And again, this is the assumption that you have a team of direct reports who like understand that showing up on time is kind of one of those fundamental things. That's just my opinion. I think one of the key things I've always learned also in my leadership experience, and what I've learned, is that 80% of success is just showing up. You got to show up to the appointment. You got to show up on time, or you just show up to communicate challenges to your leadership. Most managers, in my experience, if you just show up professionally, they're actually really respectful. If you show up to measure how you're going to hit your KPIs, they're going to respect those things. So again, I want you to think about this, and here's the call to action. I want this to stay with you. Of the 5 qualities I've covered today, they avoid passing blame on others. They challenge tasks and projects, not the people. They prioritize productive work, not busy work. They check their ego to empower others, and they prioritize praise over punishment because they value psychological safety. What I want you to do, and you don't have to share in comments or email me, what I really value is I want you to think of one of these 5, because let's be real, we're all very, very busy. Think of one of these 5. And of the 5, which one can I work on today and dedicate the next 7 days? I'm going to say it again, 7 days, to leveling up and empowering that quality to improve my leadership skill.
Thanks for tuning in to the Persistent Managers Podcast, which helps managers and direct reports win faster. Join our podcast newsletter for more insights to win faster, completely free.